Hi guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The brand new Sentinels team in action for the first time ever yesterday, playing up against a rather talented team Tarik squad and absolutely demolishing the series. Loads of other Rostermania pieces going down on the day as well. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on the potential of this new Sentinels roster as a result of this series. If there's anything to glean from it at all, in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. First of all, as you guys can tell from the bottom right hand corner of this video, big thanks to ZOWIE for once again supporting today's content. They did run that great event this past weekend at the Sentinels headquarters. Loads of content creators and, well, important members of the Valorant scene. For there you can see Chet just a couple of seconds ago on the left hand side. This is Gen.G. Of course, TenZ was there, Zekken was there, among others from the Sentinels team, showing off the brand new mice they have, of course, the 4K wireless stuff, in addition to testing hand shapes and sizes to see what exact mice grip is going to be necessary for players depending on your style, and we'll see that with TenZ actually here in just a second. Of course, the new monitors as well, with a very high refresh rate that we'll let TenZ talk a bit more about here in a second. But a really cool event here that ZOWIE were putting on for the community and just showing why all this stuff is absolutely top of the line. So I wanted to share a little bit of what TenZ had to say about the new equipment that they unveiled this past weekend, certainly on the monitor side with the Diet 2 technology, and also the decision on how ZOWIE set up their monitors.
ZOWIE uses TN panels, which, I mean, notoriously before they would have less like color to them, and that's why people chose IPS panels. But I think ZOWIE's direction, they actually are looking towards the competitive gaming market and trying to cater towards the competitive gamers with just pure performance. I mean, initially, I actually used to play with Diet off, but ever since I switched, it just made everything a lot clearer. So, I mean, it kind of is a competitive advantage in a sense, because it just allows for motion clarity when you're like spraying targets and trying to transfer, when you're trying to track like a high-speed target as well, when you're trying to like flick fast. Like I feel that everything feels a lot more lifelike and not really like as blurry, where you're able to like see stuff.
So just to explain a bit of what TenZ is talking about there, an IPS monitor here on the left-hand side is generally going to have more accurate color representation, but in terms of refresh rate, in terms of response time, a TN monitor is the way to go, and that's of course how ZOWIE produced their panels. And TenZ is also talking about the Diet 2, the dynamic accuracy technology, that once he's turned it on, he's felt a big difference with this new ZOWIE tech in terms of motion blur reduction, as you guys can see here. So if you guys are interested in any of the ZOWIE products and accessories, all of the relevant QR codes are going to be in either the bottom right hand side of your screen or in the description box below. Thanks to ZOWIE for their continued support of this channel and the community, and let's dive into exactly what happened over the last 24 hours, because we have lots of Rostermania stuff to get into as well. Karmine Core confirming that Shin is gone. They are building a brand new roster for next season. Sadak, we believe, is going to be spearheading it from the IGLing perspective of the roster. DRX as well was an interesting announcement. So it seems like midday Korean Standard Time, which I think is 4 AM here in the UK tomorrow, they're going to be confirming one of their next options, right? We know that they've made some surprising changes. Buzz gone, Foxy9 gone, Bayon gone as well. Where those guys are going to go next, who knows? Are DRX making a good decision? Because sure, they didn't get the result again they wanted at the end of the season, but the players they've decided to get rid of, certainly a question mark. Feel free to speculate in the comments below what they're going to be building here instead. NRG, they confirm Demon 1 is gone. And this is an interesting way that they say it, I guess. He's too good to keep on the bench, so we're giving him the chance to shine elsewhere. Thanks everything, Demon 1. Kind of similar to what's happened with Pancada, right, on the Sentinels team, when they had him benched because Zellsis was just a better fit for the roster, really. And they said to Pancada, look, we'd have you as a bench player because you're like one of the best bench players possible in the world, but it actually makes more sense just to let him go for what he's done for the org. So NRG is saying that they're doing the same thing. Whether what's really happening here is that they can get some money for Demon 1, because I always take this with a bit of a grain of salt. I'm a little bit, you know, cynical when it comes to these things. Like, are NRG letting Demon 1 go out of the goodness of their heart to allow him to explore other options? And of course, you know, if they'd have wanted to, they could have just kept him as a starting player. I mean, they need someone in that role. They wanted, we think, Durka. Now they're looking at other options out there as well. There's some speculation on who, you know, the final piece of the puzzle over there in NRG is actually going to be, but it's not going to be Demon 1. And, you know, presumably they have something to gain as well, because maybe Leviathan are going to pay a bit of money to get him into their roster. And that's pretty sure now what's going to happen, right? We know that he's trialed with Lev, then he has been scrimming with Lev. It seems like that trial period is now done. done, and the verbal agreement has been reached as well. Of course, Lev, if they want to pay for Demon 1 or whatever that relationship looks like, they may need a bit of cash, and that cash may come from selling Aspas. I think it also confirms if Demon 1 is going to Lev, then Aspas is not going to be on Lev anymore, and that is a big matter for debate, of course, when it comes to where is Aspas going to go, because we still don't have many rumours on that over the last few days, with certain Pacific teams, though, seemingly throwing their hat into the ring. As Demon 1 says, after getting dropped, of course, by NRG or released by NRG, looking for a team, so, you can either buy that he doesn't know where he's going or you can't, and then, funny enough, the founder and CEO of Lev then says LFP, presumably looking for a player, and then Demon 1 is in the replies to say, yo, kind of what's going on. So, yeah, I think that is basically a locked-in done deal. But let's talk about the brand new Sentinels roster, right? Because TenZ is welcoming Sassy back to the timeline. Yesterday, I think maybe actually a couple of days ago now, Twitter or X was unbanned in Brazil, so that means that Sassy and Pancada and others can officially return to the timeline, which is going to be pretty entertaining, I'm sure. But also, the guys were in action last night. Well, not Sassy, Pancada or TenZ. Well, TenZ actually was, and he was playing with Boostio in the Tarik Showmatch. So we saw Sentinels talk about this yesterday. They were going to run a bit of a show match with their brand new roster against Team Tarik, as they were known. And not a team full of bums, right? Like, this was a competitive roster full of competitive players, but it turned out the new Sentinels team pretty much wiped the floor with them, and it was impressive to see. Obviously, it's not exactly indicative of what's going to happen from now to the end of the season, how good this new Sentinels roster is going to be, but in terms of a first sign of how the players work together and the cohesion, it was looking pretty good. Bang and Narrate especially showed up pretty well. Bang, I think, was especially impressive just because of, well, at least his individual 1v1 record against Boostio in this series was quite commendable, given the fact that he was on Boostio's team until not that long ago, before Sentinels then poached him away. So, yeah, Sentinels' new roster versus TenZ today. It's cool to see TenZ back in action, right? And TenZ has ever held his own in this series. But, yeah, he's not going to be on the starting Sentinels team, as we full well know, going into next season now. This was funny, I'm not going to lie, from Narrate, of course. He spent quite a lot of time over there in Europe. And we know that Narrate, just as a personality, if you guys have watched his streams or whatever, like, he is a bit of a tilter, right? And I think this is one thing that the Sentinels team will have to manage, is ensuring that Narrate keeps his emotions under control, because it's not just about the words that he may or may not say. It could potentially be more so about maintaining your cool in a pressure environment is critical if you want to win championships. So anyway, Narrate gets killed here by Demon 1 and drops the R word, and then Sentinels have kind of had to come out and say, oh well, sorry about that, like, we're working on it, we're getting the sensitivity training in play. But look, at the end of the day, Sentinels won the series 3-0. They finished on a fracture. They played Haven and Pearl before that. And it was just, absolutely dominant really by Sentinels. They showed absolutely no mercy to the opposition. Zekken had a monstrously good series, to be honest, plus 27. Bang, Narrate, John QT, Zellsis. So, if there's like an ideal scoreboard you'd want your players to have in order of like effectiveness and plus minus, this is pretty much what it is for Sentinels. The team on the other side, of course, was TenZ, Demon 1, Com, Tarik and Boostio. So yeah, that's obviously like a mashed together roster of players that you're not expecting to be anything special, but it's not like these guys aren't talented. Obviously they are, there's world champions and champions in their mix, absolutely. Pretty similar, to be fair, to the EG team from a couple of years ago, with TenZ in there and Tarik in there, and sure, people are like, oh, Tarik needs to work on his play and all this, and okay, fair enough, he's a streamer at the end of the day now, but Haven was 13-3, Pearl was 13-8, and then Fracture was 13-7, so really it was no mercy from Sentinels, and just showing what that new roster is capable of. So I think, look, it's an all-star matchup, it doesn't massively matter, and it's obviously, Sentinels designed this showcase for them to win the series and to, show that they're going to be good for the new season. But then again, it is pretty promising. And as I will say, it's kind of funny just looking at some of the numbers here as Zellsis puts up, the performance tab is in the pudding, as Zellsis says, 3 versus Tarik's All-Stars, stay retired at TenZ, like you're washed up type thing. And obviously, TenZ had his moments in this series, but if you look at the performance tab and you compare TenZ to Zellsis, you'll find that it was 10-7 in Zellsis' favour in matchups they had against TenZ. This, though, was probably the most telling in some ways. Like, obviously, we had Narrate versus Demon 1. He was 11-13 against, which is pretty funny just because of the clip that we just mentioned. But Bang versus Boostio was 13-3 in Bang's favour, which is a pretty emphatic head-to-head record against your, well, until very recently, your in-game leader of that 100 Thieves roster, right? As Zekken says, Trio versus Tarik and co. Obviously, he played really well, as he says, and is, I'm sure, even more so now looking forward to next season, right? So tweet your thoughts as over in the comments. I thought this is pretty funny from Com after the series, saying, hey, how about we do some sort of show match with the Nostalgia rosters, and we put together the EG team that won champs, of course, the old school Optic team with Ye and FNS and Marv Victor Crashies, of course, last year's Sentinels team, and, you know, TSM, Sabrosa, Wardell, Hazed, Cutler, Drone. It's like, you know, to me, that TSM roster ain't quite hitting in the same category as these rosters that all won major events, but, you know, still pretty funny to think about regardless. So very much enjoyed your thoughts, as always, and all this stuff in the comment section below. Thanks to ZOWIE for supporting the content. Check everything out in the description below. Take care, and I'll see you next time.